Hi and welcome to the latest video by epicwargaming.com on our game testing sessions of the Elves. Basically, you'll notice that I'm going to try and funk things up a little. Basically, I'm going to bring out less videos, but spend more time working on those videos and making them as interesting as I possibly can do for you guys. Well anyway, without further ado, I'm going to get on with it. Right then, well, since it's been a while since I last spoke to you, I've actually got around to making up 3 more pieces for the Elves, so I'm slowly chuntering my way through them. These guys are called the Devotes. They're totally devoted to the Elves, they're human slaves, but that's why they're called Devotes, because of their total devotion to them. There's nothing really special about them, they're human spearmen. I can't really say much more about them other than they give the Elves a little bit more flexibility in what they can have in their army, and that's about it about them. These guys, on the other hand, are the Divine Blood Knights, and they are far more interesting pieces than the Devotes are. They are low generation elves. The lower the generation the elf, the more powerful they are, and they have been coupled with unicorns, and they make for some really excellent, powerful cavalry. They've got plenty of attacks, they're very fast. Without a shadow of a doubt, they're the most powerful cavalry what will be in the game for a very long time. And I've saved the best till last. These guys are the Immortals, and they spend their lives either asleep or fighting or mating. So it's not a bad carry on if you ask me. But how they actually work is, you see the staff there, is that basically they go into battle, spinning that round, killing as many things as they can, and they are, well, they only live for war, so they are supreme fighters. And this is where I got the idea from. And this is where I got my idea from. Here is Neo in the Matrix killing he's basically wading his way through loads of agents here, Agent Smiths. And this is how the Immortals would fight. But instead of having that pole, they would have a staff with 2 blades on the end. So instead of beating his opponents down, they'd literally be cutting them in half. So they'd be able to take on multiple targets, dispatching them very quickly, and just basically just awesome, just killing loads of opponents in one go, you know? And that is the whole point of the Moon Staff, and that is how the Immortals fight. Anyway, on with the game test. Right then, here's a random terrain generator. This is what it gave us today. The game is Matty vs Alex, and the game size is 1,500 points each. Orcs vs the Elves. After all the terrain was laid out, this is what it looks like. Here's a close-up of the Orc side. Really, it's just a standard Orc army. It's got 4 units of grunts, all armed with 2 hand weapons and spears. They've got a general, they've got a unit of nippers, and they've got 3 hags and the odd magic items scattered here and there. Apart from that, pretty ordinary, really. Now on Matty's side, it's quite different. This is all there is. 6 Immortals all together. And basically we had a Skype conversation the other night, me and Matty, and he was talking about battle tactics. He didn't often use the Elves, and I said, look, you know, in the new Elves you can have this special option where you can field just an Immortal army, but you can't have anything else. You can't have any other magic items, you can't have anything, you just have to use them as is. In fact, if you look at one of the pictures, you would have noticed a blob of blue tack, and that's just to represent the general of his army. It doesn't really mean anything because Immortals are unbreakable. So that's it basically, so you're going to see what the Immortals can do today. Right then, on with the game test, let's get going. Right then, so here we go. This is what the battlefield looks like after all pieces have been set out. The Immortals had the highest soldiering, so they forced the Orcs to set out first. They went first in their first go. Tactics wise, the Immortals they want to get stuck into combat quickly, but they don't want to get stuck in combat, you know, because they can only go for 7 rounds until they start feeling tired. So the Orcs, on the other hand, want to keep the Immortals in combat as long as possible, and they've got to be careful about getting or not getting flanked by the Immortals, because the Immortals, if it was me, I'd look to get one Mortal in the front and two Immortals in the side, or vice versa. Also, the Immortals want to be very worried about those hags. Of course, they've got very little magical defence of the Immortals. They do have magic count that prevents them from being affected from missile spells, so actually it blocks the hag's worst spell. So they're alright there, but the hags do have other magic which will affect them. Anyway, on with the game. Now, the first few turns of the game was really cat and mousey of these two. Neither side really wanted to, well, they were both really cagey about getting stuck into combat, when both sides really need to engage each other as soon as possible, because the Orcs wanted to wear down the Immortals, and the Immortals want to break the Orcs as soon as possible. Now here you can see a massive wasted opportunity from Matty. He should have charged those hags you can just see in the distance there, but instead he missed that opportunity. Had he got rid of them, it would have really helped him on later on in the game. Now you can just see what those Orcs are trying to do there. They're trying to chase after the Immortals with the Nippers, because the Nippers are crazy little creatures. You know, they're unbreakable, so if they fight the Immortals they'll get slaughtered, but they'll take out valuable round counters for the Immortals, and the Immortals will need all their round counters in this battle. They've got no reserves, they are the reserves, so they can't afford to get tied up with those Nippers. Now you can see Turmoil's been cast on the Immortals. Now, the Turmoil really is the Orcs' ace in the hold, because it negates all armour saves, and Immortals rely on their armour saves to keep them safe in combat, or just during the entire battle really, and without that they're completely vulnerable. So thankfully it's been cast out of combat, so they're okay, but in combat they get absolutely murdered. Look at this as well, it puts the jitters up Matty so much that he doesn't charge them in, which maybe he should have done, because again he's been given the opportunity of charging the hags, but he doesn't do it. Instead he spends a turn jostling around. Wasted opportunity, because those hags wouldn't even touch him. Then all but one of the Immortals charge into combat with the Orcs. The last remaining Immortal tries to scoot round the Orcs' right flank, hoping to come in later on to get a charge, maybe when it's more needed. Personally, I would have charged more pieces into one unit, because obviously it wasn't going to get around the Orcs, so maybe a maximum impact is hopefully trying to break the Orcs as much as possible. But instead what Matty's done is divided up his forces, and that makes it easier for the Orcs to manage them, because half of the battle stress, because the Immortals are outnumbered so much, is halved. So unfortunately now the Immortals are going to be stuck in combat for a long time, which is not good for them. In combat, however, the Immortals do shine, and this is what it's like for the Orcs. That has got to hurt really, hasn't it? So but anyway, if we go to the next clip, you can see how many dead Orcs. You know, 8 dead Orcs there from turn 1, just from 2 Immortals. That's pretty nasty stuff. But it's not enough to break those Orcs. Had he put more, maybe 3 Immortals, he would have stood more chance of doing it. But never mind, on with the battle. Okay, so the Immortals have lost their armour, and they're stuck in combat. It's not what Matty wanted, but they are cutting the Orcs to ribbons, and after turn they keep losing troops until this happens. Turmoil. And it was a little bit like that bit out of Ghouls and Ghosts when they lost their armour, and as soon as they lost their armour, this happens. You've got no armour, they're in combat, the Orcs just rip them to bits. Sad days for the Immortals indeed, and Matty isn't looking so confident anymore at this point in the game, I can tell you. So after having a little cry somewhere, Matty picks himself up, dusts himself down and continues fighting. And in fact it doesn't look too bad for Matty on the left side of the battlefield, because he's still killing orcs after orcs, handfuls after handfuls of orcs each round. So it's not going too bad really, and the orcs aren't managing to get through his save. However, the orcs still have one little trick up their sleeve, and it's a runt. And runts, well, they're character pieces, but they're not like the best characters, no, in fact they're the worst characters you have. But why give a nasty magic item to something who's going to die or be a kamikaze? Why not give it to the worst piece in your army? And that's what a runt is. Anyway, everything's fine for Matty until one of the runts charges into the back of it and does this. Well, that gave you a pretty good idea of what actually happened to the Immortals there. But what actually happened to the Immortals was the runt with the Armour of Brilliance, which is a new magic item coming out with the new edition of the rules, charged into the back of the Immortals, sorry, who already had Turmoil. You can just see their Turmoil, 9 Principle of Chaos, cast on them. So they had no armour saves, but they had a good chance of surviving, because the Orcs in combat still had to hit them on 6s, and then they had a 1 in 2 to overcome as well for a fatally wounding throw. But with the runt in the back of them, and under the current rules for the Armour of Brilliance, they have to spare at least 1 attack to hit the runt of the Immortals, and if they hit the runt or the bearer of the Armour of Brilliance, they explode. The explosion then took out the Immortals and the runt, but it was well worth the sacrifice of the runt to take down those Immortals. And now Matty has got 2 Immortals left. They've been fighting for most of the game, so they're beginning to get tired. They're running out of round counters, and the game is drawing to a close. So now we're working our way to the end of the game, and no one's expecting anything spectacular to happen at this point or anything like that. At the moment it's looking like it's either going to be a draw or a minor win to the Orcs. But I've stuck on this combat for a reason. Here we have an Immortal, a Timeless Warrior, Grand Warrior. Now he is tired, so he has -1 to his save, -1 to his fatally wound, and he gets -1 to hit in combat. But apart from that, he should quite easily take on those Nippers. Nippers, on the other hand, are basically baby orcs, where it gets shoved onto the battlefield as part of their educational plan, and if they survive and grow up, then great. If they don't, then it's a way of getting rid of the weaker baby orcs, or, you know, sorting the wheat from the chaff sort of type thing. So when this happens, and everyone's like, it's like one of those moments like, what the fuck, you know, that wasn't meant to happen, you know? But somehow an Immortal was killed by a Nipper. After that last little bit of excitement, the game sort of goes on from there. There's 1 Immortal left, 1 Grunt unit, and the General now, all fighting it out. The Immortal tries to kill the Bull General in a last desperate bid to sort of make the Orcs panic and run away, but that fails. The Grunts try and cast all the magic on them, but that fails, and both just sort of slug it out until the end of the game. And these are the scores. As you can see, it's a win to Alex. Well done, Alex, by the way, that was a good game. The game, though, could have gone either way for me. Had the Immortals took the opportunity to hit the hags in the beginning of the game, they wouldn't have had that awful spell Turmoil cast on them, and they wouldn't have lost their armour when they most needed it. So it could have gone either way, so I thought it was a pretty balanced game, really. In saying that, some of the rules need a little bit of updating. There's bravery checks, which is a new thing in the rules. It's a bit like if you play Warhammer Fantasy, it's a bit like a leadership test when you charge a fair cause. I think that's a new thing that's been brought into the game. That needs to be a little bit tweaked, but other than that, it was a good game test. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and feel free to comment on the videos. Tell me if you like it or not, or offer ways that I could possibly improve my videos. And remember that Free Plans is a free game to subscribe to and download. All you have to do is click on the link below in the information box. Anyway, take care, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Bye bye.